Well, it's officially the holidays. With the lighting of the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree, thousands of people crowded into Midtown for the festivities. And among them, CBS 2's Jennifer Bisram. Live with all the excitement tonight. Jennifer, it's beautiful.
Yes, very beautiful. The holiday season, as you mentioned, has begun. The lighting of the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree happened just a short time ago. Thousands of people came out. They braved long lines and the cold just to witness the magical moment. And the NYPD was here in full force to make sure everyone was safe. And just like that, the holiday season here in New York City has officially begun.
We've been here for 3 hours just to see that, so it was amazing.
It's just the most spectacular tree you've ever seen, and just to be here is so magical.
The tree at Rockefeller Center has been lit and has more than 50,000 colorful LED lights wrapped around the towering 80-foot tree with a 900-pound stunning star with 3 million crystals.
We're here for the tree. This is our first time seeing the Rockefeller tree.
Thousands of holiday lovers from across the globe braved the long lines and cold, including Nick and Amanda Ziegler, who got engaged at the tree lighting in 2018.
As soon as the tree lit up, I proposed to her.
Yes, it was very magical.
And security was tight, both on the ground with uniformed and undercover officers and in the sky with drones.
People come from all over the world to experience the magic of the tree lighting, and our goal and our job is to make sure that they can do so.
The tree lighting has been around since the 1930s. For some, it's tradition. For others, here Wednesday night, it was something they were able to cross off on their bucket list.
It's always been my dream since I was a little kid to come see the tree light up.
It was beautiful.
Awesome. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Light her up!
My friend Thomas showed me this in school. If you mix up the letters in Santa Claus, you get Satan Claus.
This is the Eye for an Eye channel. Welcome to today's show. The ritual at Rockefeller Center. Every year, the brain-dead zombies get together to stare at a tree that they don't even realize is pagan, to light it up, and to go back into this dystopian mindset. Then it's the holiday season, so everything's great. Everything's wonderful. Everybody, of course, is just trying to go through these traditions, these earthly traditions like the tree lighting, because they're really just trying to ignore the horror story that is presented to us on a day in, day out basis. That's why we see more and more adults who are clinging to things that they grew up with. I constantly talk about this with the retro things where people are, going to Disneyland, taking their kids to Disneyland, really going for themselves. But there's a constant mindset of people who are just grasping to hold on to anything from the past. And that is, of course, because of the horror that we're living in. And instead of facing the horrors, overthrowing the horrors, and stopping it from occurring, instead people are just grasping onto the past. So the tree lighting at Rockefeller Center I wanted to cover. A couple of people were talking about it over on the website, uprisingrevival.com. And I definitely recommend, if you haven't joined the website yet, you do join the website. There's a lot of great information being shared. I want to note that I just put up a video of the situation going on over in the Lady Gaza Strip. Okay, you may have heard some of this stuff where there's currently a little peace treaty for momentarily where they're releasing people. It couldn't be more ridiculous. The footage that they're releasing is so unbelievable. Have you ever seen people who are holding people captive and hostage, hugging one another, waving goodbye, waving the car off? Well, if you haven't seen this footage, you need to see it. It's over on the website, uprisingrevival.com, along with my commentary on it. And the whole thing is just hilarious. It's hilarious that people fall for it. And somehow they can release this fake staged footage, and the masses out there see it, and they tie it into a narrative. Nobody questions whether or not it's actually real or really occurring. They just can't grasp it in their head that the news is faker than anything they've ever seen in a movie. It is more scripted. So that video is available on the website, uprisingrevival.com. So let's get to the Rockefeller ritual, because of course we know Rockefeller Center, which was obviously, we know the last name Rockefeller, right? It's named after John D. Rockefeller, one of the people who is enslaving us as we speak, even though he's no longer walking the earth, supposedly. The Rockefeller family, one of the families who is very much big components of Depop, okay, and mass extinctions occurring. Of course, nobody ever talks about David Rockefeller's tie-ins with those 2 towers in New York City that went down. They never seem to mention that, of course, because all this stuff that they do, the wicked do, right in front of our faces, nobody seems to question them on because they're too distracted going to see a giant tree being lit up instead of arresting these people, right? And that's the world that we live in now. So Rockefeller Center, of course, named after the Rockefeller family. Every year they do this big pagan worship there where they light the tree up, Nimrod's tree, and they all stand there and drool over it. And, of course, what's in the Rockefeller Center that nobody makes mention of? It's a statue of Satan. Oh, I'm sorry. I mean Prometheus. I forgot. Right? That's what they tell everybody, at least. They tell them it's Prometheus, but it's really actually Lucifer, a statue of Lucifer that sits right in the middle of that place. And, of course, they just try to deflect off of that and say that it's no big deal. And even if it was Lucifer, who really cares, right? As we've allowed them to pretty much take over Mystery Babylon, which is America, and put their statues of Lucifer. Because if they actually put the plaque underneath it that said Lucifer, people might actually start waking up. They might find people like me and say, oh my goodness, yeah, that stuff Israel, instead of laughing it off and dismissing it. Now I know not many people laugh off or dismiss this stuff anymore, but it seems not to help matters as far as stopping these people. But the statue that's so famous in the ice skating rink outside of Rockefeller Center, we're told, is actually a statue of Prometheus, the teacher in every art, brought the fire that hath proved to mortals a means to mighty ends. Of course, we know this is really Satan in disguise. I mean, you may have seen the movie Prometheus. It's most known for, other than being completely boring, black goo. There's lots of tie-ins, of course, with Prometheus actually being Lucifer. But I won't go into deep detail on that, but just understand that's what the statue is. But I also want to cover some of the ghouls who they rolled out for the lighting of the tree, because it was hosted by Kelly Clarkson. Kelly Clarkson, of course, is a high-ranking witch these days after being selected and obviously placed in American Idol, and to build an audience behind Kelly Clarkson so people can organically think they could become famous off the streets when she's obviously a part of a bloodline that would allow her to be put in that position in the first place. Kelly Clarkson is another one of these people that herds their audience. You might say, is there really an audience for Kelly Clarkson? Well, right. I mean, that is a bit of a stretch, but Kelly Clarkson does have a TV show, a talk show. So that matters because the talk shows that the zombies watch during the afternoon hours really get into their minds with a lot of the political stuff. That's how they're able to herd them. That's how they're able to really create what we look at as Democrats or liberals, but really create the communist mindset through niceness and through caring. And it's really amazing. And I'm going to show you a clip of Kelly Clarkson in a second because, you know, Kelly is just doing her best to be a nice, wonderful person. That's why Kelly had to go out of her way to have an episode where she brought on what? Well, she brought on 2 girls who just did a huge service for society. What did they do? Well, they exonerated the last Salem witches 300 years later. Now, why does anyone care? Well, of course, nobody really cares, but they care. They care, and they love rubbing this in everyone's faces because these are top priorities as the world burns around us. To exonerate the names of witches from 300 years ago is on a priority list for Hollywood, for our government, because we know that they've even mentioned it in Congress about exonerating witches. Of course, this couldn't be further from the truth. This is just to convince people out there that witches don't really exist, that nice people were wrongfully convicted, that witches are good people, when in reality, the only reason things have ever happened to witches and Satanists in the past is, of course, because they've been outed. People figured out what they were doing, sacrificing animals. They love to be around children. Okay, these are all things that are in their books that they don't go out and tell you. They want you to think that, well, by being a witch, you just really love nature and you love grass and you love rolling around in hay and you have some crystals in your home, but you don't really worship the devil, and you do spells, but they're all for good energy and all these terms they use, and they obviously mix that in with New Age Christianity and spiritualism. But let me just play this clip because it's funny. Well, Kelly Clarkson has these 2 girls on. She talks about what a great thing they did. They're looked at as heroes. And Sam Smith, the Satanist himself, you remember Sam Smith, who I think is non-binary. I don't know what the technical lingo is these days for these psychopaths. But Seth Smith, or Sam Smith, I should say, who obviously was dressed as the devil recently, made a big uproar with conservative media, even though, you know, they want you to get an uproar over these things and not do anything about it. In reality, something should be done and needs to be done. But here is Kelly Clarkson, the host of the Rockefeller Christmas thing, talking about how great these girls were for exonerating witches from 300 years ago.
I'm sitting next to two amazing girls. Recently took on a very unusual yet meaningful cause. They helped exonerate the last woman unjustly accused of witchcraft during the Salem witch trials. Meet Jacob, meet Sam. Hi. So remind everyone about the Salem witch trials, Miss LaPierre.
It was a time of Puritanism, which was a very strict religion. People believed in witchcraft. They feared the devil. Some of the women in Salem were being accused of witchcraft, and this turned into a hysteria that spread throughout Massachusetts. Early witches started to try to be exonerated that had been convicted, and some were even hanged, and their families tried to get them exonerated, but it's taken 300 years to finally make it happen for everyone.
I had incredible teachers. I was lucky, but they were like, well, you have to learn the history so you don't repeat it.
Yeah,
and keep that alive so you don't repeat the same mistakes that our ancestors did. There's a lot of history there not to repeat. But tell us about the woman that you ended up exonerating.
Well, Elizabeth Johnson Jr., and she was unmarried, 22, no children at the time of her accusation of witchcraft. Even her grandfather had suggested she may have had some mental challenges. So this is a type of person who would have been considered different in their society, kind of an outcast, which is typically what the case was for the women who were accused.
Either of you aware of the Salem witch trials?
I went to Salem. I went on like a tour.
Oh, you did? You did?
Yeah, I loved it. I love witches. I am a witch.
Be aware. Don't say it. They like hanging people like that.
So that's Kelly Clarkson for you. You see all the all-seeing eye symbolism, the black and white Freemasonic symbolism. It's the same thing that we always see, right? Over and over and over again with these people. And also on top of that, they decided to dust off another casket. I guess it's Casket Coffin Week, a little after Halloween, because they dusted Jimmy Carter's off, rolled him out. Now they're dusting off Cher's. That's right, Cher has been rolled out. Somebody asked recently here on YouTube why they're bringing out Dolly Parton, that's another one who they just rolled out of a sarcophagus. Hey, why are they rolling them out? Because their audience is the elderly people. Like, older people listen to Dolly Parton. No offense if you're, like, listening to these people. But, I mean, people who are in their 50s and 60s and 70s now grew up with Dolly Parton, grew up with Cher. So they need those social engineers to be pushed out, right? Because what is Dolly Parton? Well, she changed the lyrics of her song to make it say, go get your magic potion. Cher is a massive proponent of the magic potion, was showing up on TV over and over again during the whole, outbreak, telling people she was worried to go outside, that anybody that wasn't doing this or doing that was a bad person. That's how they engineer it. They're engineering the older audience, right? They know what they're doing here with Tavistock and social engineering. The elderly ones like Dolly and Cher are there to influence their audience, just like Miley Virus is there to influence her audience, just like these other new wave of celebrities are there to influence their audience. So Cher was rolled out, of course. I've covered Cher before. You see Cher with her Baphomet helmets and all her satanic imagery, the Kali, Shiva, always showing the destroyer, right, with all the arms behind her, like Shakira, like all these celebrities do. Nobody suspicious. Beyonce, they love all those arms. I guess, Cher at one point was just like, hey, I got a toothbrush in one hand, I got a can of Coke in the other. I could use a few more arms. Couldn't you? And they're like, yeah, wouldn't it be great? Like, we should use that imagery in our music so people will get that, right? You'll have 20 arms behind you. Then you could grab all the things you want. You could pick your nose with one of the arms. You could wipe your butt with the other. If you need to tie your shoe, you can. You could, do your bed sheets, make the bed. I mean, lots of things with so many arms. And everyone's like, yeah, it'd be a great idea. We need more arms, right? Nobody's going, what is this thing? Why do these celebrities constantly have all these arms behind them? Right? Oh, see, why is it right outside that giant thing they call the Hadron Collider? Why is it right outside CERN where they have the same statue with all these arms? Does CERN want more arms too? Right? I mean, they got enough tentacles. So do these celebrities. They have enough tentacles. But yeah, they need more arms. That's, of course, Shiva the Destroyer. Right? And they love to show you this stuff because these are the deities and demons that these people worship. But nobody could get that far to wake up to what's going on because they can't see past the plastic faces that these people roll out with and the fake niceness and kindness that they put forth when these people are the biggest frauds that have ever existed, which I get a kick out of when Christians yell at me and they're like, you don't sound Christian, you're mean. Oh, give Jimmy Carter a break. Oh, give this person a break. Stop, you don't sound Christian, the stuff you're saying. Well, these aren't even humans. These are demons that are walking among us. So I don't know in the Bible where it's like, hey, befriend a demon. Is there a verse in the Bible that's like, you should buddy up with a demon? Does the Bible say, hey, don't hate Satan, love him? No. So let's not interpret, verses like love your enemies as yourself. Let's not interpret that as like loving Cher and loving these people that aren't even human beings, okay, at this stage in the world. So, ladies and gentlemen, the Rockefeller Center, every year the ritual is done where the tree's lit up. All the zombies show up because they don't realize that they have meaningless existences and they don't want to face the negativity, which is one of the reasons that all of these people go along and accept everything, is because confrontation scares them to death because they don't want to be perceived by other people as negative. And in reality, people like me, all we really want to do is be left alone. You know, it's not what's going on now. What's going on now is these people are forcing this stuff on you. They're not doing this behind closed doors. They're acting like they're behind closed doors doing these perverse acts, and we're all like ripping their doors down. No, they want to do it in your school, in your home. They want you to accept it. If you don't accept it, they want you to be killed. It's all psychotic. And what the problem is that most of these people are laying down instead of saying, all right, enough's enough. Calm down, freaks. No, they're going to the tree lighting. They're going to these things, and they're like, it's a tradition since 1935. Yeah, it's in a tradition going back to Babylon, worshiping the devil, doing pagan rituals out in the open. It's still going on, okay? Not to mention the fact that nobody's like, hey, who's this David Rockefeller? Who's this John Rockefeller they named this thing after? Could we look into these guys? Rockefeller, like Jay-Z, the music? You know, what do you think the name means? The name stands for New World Order, really, right? The Rockefellers, oh yeah, I've heard of the Rock. They're real rich, right? Real rich. They're behind a lot of the world disasters that go on, like the other globalists. You know, take a look at the article from David Rockefeller standing inside those two towers that no longer is standing there. Who do you think was involved with that? Did you hear anything about Dave Rockefeller after that? Was he tragically upset? Or no, he wasn't. Was he the architect, one of the architects of those structures being built? Of course he was. They were built to be destroyed because that's how rituals occur, right? It was a giant ritual out in the open, just like this is. So Rockefeller Center, I call it the Rockefeller ritual. Every single year, these people line up and don't even realize what they're partaking in. Ladies and gentlemen, I am not judging you if you have a Christmas tree and that's something you want to do. I know other people in the comment section do. I try not to do that because I find the same people say things in the comment section about how they live their life or how you're supposed to do, then they don't live it themselves. So I'm just telling you what this is. Take it for what it's worth, okay? Some people interpret worship with the tree differently than just having a tree or liking the smell of the tree or lights on the tree. I don't really go into detail. I don't pass judgment on fellow Christians, believe it or not, despite what people say to me. But I do pass judgment on a lot of these fake events that are occurring around the world, which is why I emphasize you need to join the website Uprising Revival if you haven't yet. You have got to see this video of what's going on over there with the hostage situation. Put yourself in the perspective of you've been kidnapped for a couple of months and they're just letting you out. Are you hugging those? Did you guys bond? What were you playing, board games while you were there? Were you painting each other's toenails while time was going by? Now you're leaving and you're all upset to see each other go. You're handshaking each other. Some of the people coming out of there weren't even what they were supposed to be. In other words, some of them were Asian, some of them were Mexican. You know, it couldn't have been faker. It's up there in one of the fakest things I've ever seen in my life. And then, of course, when I'm trying to find what the feedback is on it, everyone's feedback is, see, they're not as bad as everyone says. Instead of going, this looks really staged and fake. Maybe we should all realize that there aren't wars actually going on, that they're just bombing civilians. Yeah, I think that's what people should think because that's what's going on. So that's available on the website, uprisingrevival.com. Hope to see more of you over there. Hope you're all doing well. God bless all of you as always and your families.